Welcome back to the 2026 Scrabble Players Championship in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm Josh Sokol here with Will Anderson. 2 games left today, and the standings different than they used to be. Wow, what a surprise. Let's take a look. Jason Lee back in the lead at 14-5 after a 14-point win over Orry Swift. Joey Malik, 14-5, but with the worst spread after his loss on stream to David Pearl. Orry Swift and David Pearl in third and fourth, respectively. That is the Table 2 game that we are going to be featuring right now, Will.
Yeah, another showcase for David Pearl, who just put forth a very impressive effort to reel Joey Malik back in from the top spot. But man, it is a bit of a maze at the top with so many players still having very, very real chances here heading into the last 2 games of the day and then our 7 games tomorrow, after which you are gunning for one of those top 2 spots. So I think our players are ready. We want to cut to the board. I'm not sure.
Pretty sure. They were ready. The tiles were unsquared. At the beginning of each game, tiles are squared on each corner of the board in a 5x5 square, usually. And that is just to show that all 100 tiles are there. Nobody has any tiles up their sleeves, etc., etc. So the tiles are back in the bag now, but David had to get up for something.
Looks like some water. I think he was carrying some water back to the table, staying hydrated.
Yeah, World Cup style. Hydration break.
Yes, that's right. So there we go. Handshake. David going first. Orry, such a tough competitor, has always been in the mix at these big events. Made the finals a few years back. He is gunning for his first ever North American Scrabble Championship, Scrabble Players Championship. So for him, this is a big game. Obviously, also a big game for David Pearl as he looks to continue holding strong at the top of the standings amongst the giants of North American Scrabble. So here he goes, going first. WCP, Josh. Not the best 3-tile combo.
Not so great, but with all those vowels in the R, suddenly the rack isn't so bad. Wiper is a nice way to score well. And PEW for 16 instead of Wiper for 28, keeping CEIR. Those look pretty good. And it's going to be important potentially to see what Orry does after the play of Wiper. Does he have an 8-letter word?
Yeah, over wide at least, right? So it would be almost inconceivable for David to have made a play that did not put the W on the board. That would have been job 1 for David. He has done that. He has scored well. But as you say, Josh, in the process, the W hitting the board will give Orry, and there were a lot of 8-letter bingos that Orry could have hoped for with these nicely balanced tiles with the over combination.
Wow. Congener.
Oh, unbelievable. Oh my gosh. So a potential huge counter bingo on offer for David if he spots it. First, he's going to absorb the bingo from Orry here and take stock of that. But oh my God, if he spots his own 8-letter bingo, we have ourselves some fireworks to start this one.
Wow, so 28-80 now, but Congener to that R and Wiper will score a whopping 89 if he spots it.
And he has.
He is firing on so many cylinders, David Pearl. He has played so well on stream all 3 times so far. That's a great find. In their first matchup, since this is a repeat matchup, David Pearl lost the game 377-399 against Orry. So this is also a potential revenge match as Orry draws pretty nicely. ADEHRTX. X will allow him to score pretty well in a variety of spots on the board. So Congener, it's just a matter of, do I know for sure that this is valid? If there's any doubt, kind of messes with your thought process, but how could you do any better than this? Double from the V? No way. Double from the E? No way. Congener, by far the highest score possible with a rack like this. We'll see if David has the confidence to lay it down.
he saw it so quick, right? So any time spent beyond that is purely evaluating the validity and confidence level of this word. Just look how quickly he spotted it. It was mere seconds after he drew his tiles and took stock of them. So this is just trying to get straight in your mind. Is this a word that I know for sure? Am I hallucinating this? I do expect him to eventually play this into the R of Wiper and retake the lead. But man, you can see his body language suggests that he is grappling with this one, Josh.
Absolutely, and I guess Oncogene is also playable through the O of Overwide. If he's more confident on that, we might see him play that, but how could you be more confident on that than on Congener? That's such a weird word. So yeah, a little bit tough. I guess potentially the story being displayed in David's mind is what just happened last game. I didn't think Stockaded was good, but it was good. Do I know my words properly? That might be the thought process here. A little bit of confidence.
Oh, wow.
That is
That's
unfortunate.
that is gonna sting. There's no way around it. When David looks up this word and he saw it so quick, so we do not see Congener go down. That is a tremendous swing. Although he does now have Legongs on his rack, we'll give him another chance to potentially see a bingo tricky one here. But that is a huge reprieve. Unbeknownst to Orry, he just got a bit of a break, and now he gets to proceed with his X. Should be several good options for him to use that to good effect.
Seen it, and I guess we could have sort of we could have maybe told that he was unsure of Congener because he didn't separate the letters in the same way that he's separated these Legongs. So I think, again, just giving us a little bit of information at home or on site, which I am, that David knows this word and is going to play that. Now he's just shifting the O over. But yeah, a very unfortunate miss for him. Will Orry play his X now with X'd to the left of IDE? What about Herd? Heard to the left of Overwide. If you put that on the board, you suddenly see if you draw another A, there's the setup for XED. But what if David has the Z? What if he has a big play there? Is it worth trying to set this up when you don't actually have the letter you need? Do we play the X now? We're up 32 points. Do we play through the C of Coven? Make things even more dynamic? This is X is a little bit dangerous on the left of Overwide, setting up a huge spot, making ED, not setting up the X. Maybe we'll see it to the right of Overwide, making X, which also creates a dangerous spot or helps, aids in the dangerous spot that already exists to the left of those three letters, Will.
There's a huge number of viable options here. Sussing out which of them gives you the best chances and exposes you to the lowest amount of damage coming back from David is tricky. It looks like Orry maybe about to play XED on the left of over wide and pulls it back, realizing, man, this might be a little harder hitting than I thought at first glance. But yeah, tricky decision to suss this out. What is the safest and best option? Or are you going to take a point sacrifice here and go for this one? This maybe, Josh, I feel like this arguably complements his own tiles better than some of the other options.
Absolutely, it does. So I think that's why he did it. He also could have played X underneath the ER of Wiper, which wouldn't have blocked Lagongs, but it looks like it would have for a second. But that is a very quick bingo for David Pearl. He's confident in this one, and he is up a point on Orry Swift, who's just sacrificed 2, and he's drawn into, I believe, is a valid 7-letter word now. Oh, not in this lexicon. My bad.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't fit anyway. So ABHORST. Or he can use his setup now, play to the left with something like Horst or Horas or uh, Auras, Torah, Torah. But he also has a triple to contend with on the top. Does he want to cover that and play BAH, for example, keep a better leave? Does he want to play through the Sea of Coven? Again, he has that H for a huge score. So many scoring options for Orry Swift. A lot to choose from, maybe a little bit too much. He's looking at uh, BROCH or botch also fits there. So many options, Will. What do you want to do here?
Yeah, I'm just putting a few of them on the board. There's so many good scoring plays available. Similar to last turn, actually, where Ori had so many different ways he could have gone with his X. Now he has a similar number of ways, whether it's botch, batch, broach, anything through the Sea of Coven. There's 3 or 4 plays up there. And then, of course, all the plays here that you just threw out. There are so many of them. Do you try to keep your S? Do you spend it to maybe try to use both your B and H with a play like bots in that spot? There is a ton for Ori to process here. And if you were really, really obsessed with finding the absolute best play among all those options, you could take quite a while on this turn. But there is also a practical consideration here, which is that there's not likely to be a play that is massively better than all the rest. And playing something would be a good way to go here. And Ori is going to settle on Broach here. Interesting to play this over botch, keeping AST compared to ARS, which I think in general you would want to do, especially with look at the T's in the
Hold on,
unseen tile pool, Josh.
hold on, hold
Maybe
on.
a little mistake.
I think it's a mistake, but maybe for a different reason. I think he's keeping the T for the R and wipers, but this play is on hold. David Pearl unsure of this 5-letter word. We might see an unsuccessful challenge, a challenge for the first time in 20 games. But I think the biggest problem with this play does open triples, but it's the first A of the game. No other A's have been seen. We see David Pearl doesn't have an A on his rack. So Ori's chances of duplicating, even triplicating his A's are pretty high after this play. So I think I would have liked to see him play an A over an O. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, I think bots, BAHTS, is what you showed. And wow,
Whoa.
in a challenge for the first time. We get to see the challenge cam, but this is a huge swing in Orry Swift's favor. Very surprising.
So David sticking to his guns. There were a lot of reasons to potentially consider not challenging here, given just the game situation, that you're still going to be coming back with a decent play and making the game close to even. Your opponent is Ori Swift. Would he really play a 5-letter word that's not valid? But David sticking to his guns, challenging the word, losing the challenge, and now Intarsia potentially playable. And wow, no time wasted. It is the only bingo. Crazy thing here is that A in space is probably going to give David some nice options for his Z. But that being said, this is a huge swing in favor of Ori.
Yeah, very, very quick punishment for the lost turn. So there, I guess, was some hidden value in this play. It is an awkward, weird-looking 5-letter word, BROCH, but Intarsia coming down, or he did duplicate A's, drew 2 I's, still managed to bingo, and suddenly David Pearl is down 100 points after things were just hanging in the balance a couple turns ago. That was a big swing. So Zed was the play that David was considering before these 2 plays in a row by Orry Swift. That fits to the left of Lagong's for 44 points. But now is he going to pivot and play something through the A, such as dazed, raised, adzed? There's nothing great though.
Yeah, Izard has been shouted out again, a play we saw earlier in the morning. Are we going to see that for the second time? Potentially, even just ADZ has some merit. It is a little bit closed of a play, given that you cannot overlap this Z to go down. But the other tiles on David's rack represent very good bingo tiles, so he could be happy with a play like that. Now he has Xander set up that would score quite well, similar to Dazed or Ads. A lot of plays like this in this game, Josh, where there's like 5 or 6 options, all of which deserve some consideration.
Xander would be a mistake. There are 2 blanks out, so playing 5 tiles makes sense, but this breaks up the rack so much. Izard through the A is the same score. The leaves so much better. This is one of the last 3 E's in the game as well. So I actually like playing just ads or playing the 5-letter IZARD here. I think this was maybe a missed opportunity for David Pearl. Let's see what he draws out of the bag. He did not draw the blank.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, he's definitely close. Unfading, and I think is valid through an N, but there is no N available. So is that true? I might be wrong about that. But either way, there is a good that is a word. There is a good nucleus there with the ing combo, the F and the U getting in the way, but still has a long way to go. And Orry has set up a Mauti, which is a really nice way to clean off some of the clunk that he has on his rack, play alongside the leftmost column on the board. That seems pretty strong to me.
Yeah, that's a great play. First thing you think of here is to play off the A, the F, and the U, but being able to score on that triple, the only other wide open triple, I guess, on the board, and just keep an F as a scoring tile now that you're in the driver's seat makes perfect sense to me. Also, digging for those 2 blanks that are still unseen to Orry. I think this is a hole-in-one play.
Yeah. In particular, it does so many good things already to block off the leftmost column. But yeah, just drawing so hard to get one of those 2 blanks is also a huge bit of upside. We mentioned it earlier. When the game continues along and gets past the midpoint, or certainly towards that final quarter of the game, and both blanks are still unseen, then it's time to start thinking about playing more tiles as being a good thing because of the increased likelihood of drawing one of those blanks. Let's see if Orry benefits from this choice right now.
Over to David. Don't play frauding. That's a very reasonable sounding word. Not valid in the Scrabble dictionary. Doesn't look like he's considering that good. Fungi is play is lined up. That fits to the right of Amauti. And look, Orry Swift did not draw a blank either. So those blanks keeping us waiting for them, teasing us a little bit. But maybe fading now to the left of Xander, playing 6 tiles. Again, gunning for a blank, setting up a potential S hook. Do you know if fadings is a word? Does my opponent know if fadings is a word? We saw a similar situation with coaxing on day 1. David Pearl playing coaxing, then hooking it with an S. So fadings is a valid word. Maybe that's what you do here. You're down a lot of points. Need some help.
So I can tell you that Orry actually knows a large series of nursery rhyme style stories that help him remember whether ing words take an S hook on them. I am dead serious about this, and he has recited some of them to me. They sound a little bit like gibberish, but they sure work for him because he definitely knows the ing S words exceedingly well because of these bizarre series of rhymes and fables that he knows. So look out for that. If fading is the play, Orry is going to be confident there. Instead, we're going to see fungi. And Josh, what is the deal with David Pearl and funguses? We're seeing it over and over here.
Yeah, well, this is a great way to throw a punch here. David, knowing that Orry was not sitting on a blank or an S with Amauti, setting up a triple triple. This is a big threat that Orry almost certainly will want to address. Luckily for Orry, he has a fantastic way to do so in the form of Keefe, and of course, with a lot of draws, you're going to be able to handle this threat. But it makes sense to keep things on the top right of the board. Everything over there still open. Keep AD, which has a nice balance. Gun for those blanks, but it's going to get hammered.
Interesting choice between Keefe, which Orry had originally set up, and now he has Oak, which would play parallel to Fungi in the corner, really opening nothing at all. Keefe also doesn't open anything at all. So it's mostly a question of, are you willing to live with FP as the primary deficiency on your rack going into next turn, or would you prefer a vowel heavy rack going into next turn after Keefe? The leave there would be AOPU. Gets into trouble if you draw more vowels, maybe even though PF isn't a great bingo combination, maybe that stabilizes your scores on the next turn enough that you would consider Oak here. I think Keefe is very, very similar in quality, and it looks like that's where he's leaning. Josh, what do you think of this one?
I think Keefe is a lot better. The FP combination with the U is not really leading you anywhere. The blanks are going to be really important. This board is so wide open. You want to keep balanced tiles, but you also want to keep tiles that can play long, that can play short. FUPE is just so clunky. I think I prefer this choice by a long shot. And let's see if Orry gets rewarded with a couple constants or the key.
Oh, huge reward for him right there. Yeah, I think you're spot on there that FP would be bad enough, but throwing the U into the mix is a really toxic combination. So getting rid of some of those high scorers when you have a chance to get rid of two of them in one go makes a lot of sense. So Orry considering his two runaway best options, and I agree, I think he's gone with the correct option here. Over to David, down by 104 points. Time's running out, but again, both blanks are still lurking from David's perspective. They're both unseen to him, and from our perspective, we know Orry doesn't have either of them. What he does have is very nice scoring ammunition in the form of the Q, the U, and the S all together, and let's throw the Y in there along with it.
Yeah, normally you do want to keep scoring tiles when you have a good lead, but I do think Keefe was the right choice, and the reward was very, very nice for Orry Swift. David Pearl down 104. Now that the F is gone, Amido, I guess, to the left of Xander, making AR. It's a little bit less dangerous. You won't see an IF overlap or underlap going down to the triple. Keeping AE again, gunning for those blanks, but what does Amido take, Will?
Yeah, this is risky with this situation. It does take an L hook, and you can get hammered off of that with three of the four L's still lurking in the bag. Is that a gamble that you have to take if you're David Pearl? Are you down by enough that you have to try to catch Orry off guard with some kind of a setup and hope to get lucky? Maybe you need to make a play like that. There are certainly other options that he can go with that are a little bit less risky. Something like Diorama through this R burns through tiles at a pretty good clip and draws pretty heavily. Madeira, which he has set up, is very similar, except it keeps an O instead of an E, which is a slight downgrade. Maybe it doesn't open quite as many good scoring plays back to Orry. Interesting options. I think David's thinking about this the right way, trying to play at least 5 tiles, maybe more. And here we go. It's time for some fun.
Really? Yeah. This does take an L, does not take an S, though. Be careful. This is a gamble for sure for David. Will it work out for him? Keeping EA. In positions like these, where you're down 100 plus on an open board, it's usually better to play shorter and try to bingo sooner and then bingo a second time rather than going straight for it. But look at the first blank on David Pearl's rack. He will certainly bingo next turn from the R of Wipers, something like Ruminate. And Orry Swift, is he going to continue to be able to score enough? Even if David Pearl draws both blanks, will he have enough scoring power over the next few moves to stay within the driver's seat? He's looking at QUAY through the A of Intarsia. I wish I could do better with a rack like this, Will. I feel like there might be some setup potential. I feel like there might be some way to maximize the Q, but this looks great. Good leave, good score, blocks the double-double, blocks the R of Intarsia. Not a bad play.
Yeah, this definitely takes care of at least one or two of the biggest threats on the board. And the nice thing you can say about David's play of Amido is that now there is a lot going on as far as big threats. The double-double through this A was just blocked with Orry's last play, but you've still got Amidal and you've got bingos to the R. I wonder, is there some crazy overlapping play? Almost certainly not. It's certainly worth looking at if you're David. That being said, something even now, if you play Ruminate or Retinula or whatever it is, you can still draw the L and score really well if you're David. But look at that, Josh, the second blank in the nick of time for Orry Swift. He has to be thrilled to see that tile.
Yeah, this is actually just curtains. Honestly, you cannot recover from this. If you're David Pearl, he just doesn't know it yet. A little bit concerned that he had aunties lined up, the blank S. Like we said, Amido does not take an S. Most likely Ori knows that and would challenge that off. But yeah, Ruinate, Ruinated, Ruminate, Retinula. Those are the plays from the R and Wipers. There's also the cute Inundated from through the N and the D disconnected on this board. Host of fun bingos here. If you're David Pearl, you're down 112. You want to play the bingo that gives you chances to bingo later. So does that mean playing Ruinates? Don't think the S really helps. When you're playing all the way down through that open space, you're cutting off access to a lot of the board at once. Could this be a situation where you sacrifice a lot of points to leave that R of Wipers open for later? I wonder.
Yeah, it's very interesting to consider where to play to maximize the long-term openness of the board. We'll try not to think about what Orry has right now and the fact that he's sitting on a monster. And by the way, he has stuff even through this L here. He can play Dalapons and things of the like. So even if the bottom area of the board is obstructed by David's bingo somewhat, we are going to see Orry 99.9% sure figure out a way to get a bingo somewhere on this board. He probably has stuff with overlaps alongside Amido too. But from David's perspective, he's going to go with Ruinate. I'm curious. I like your idea, Josh, of maybe calling this an S to give yourself better chances to draw an L in the second blank and play something devastating in that spot with hooks. But it is not to be. Orry is about to figure out something to play here that's going to put this one out of reach.
So according to our person on the floor, the blank was an S for Ruinates. It doesn't really matter, like you said. Ori's already found Dalapons. It's not an ideal play. You open huge scoring spots. Maybe that's what you want here. Just pretty much ensure that you are you're going to be able to score something next turn. But what happens after Dalapons? Put this on the board in a play like Joey, which David Pearl is just one letter off of. Joey would fit on the top of this board for 87. And suddenly the score will be within 10, 15, 20 points.
Yeah, it would be shocking. You're giving up more points than your bingo by far. But Josh, do you see the highest scoring bingo available here? There is something, dare I say, Nigelian available here that if Orry sees this, Orry, if you find this play, I'll get you in a video about this some way or somehow if you find the highest scoring play here.
My goodness. Yeah, so getting off of Dalapons is probably a good idea. Orry has found Anopsias through the S of Intarsia. There's also a really, really cool option making the blank a D through that S for a couple more points, but this is just good enough. You're going to look for something better, but it's okay if you don't see it. 70 points, pretty nice. I guess the problem with Anopsias is it sets up a sevens lane to the left of the AS. You could probably deal with that. So for those wondering what it is that Orry can do here for 81 points, adaptions through the D of overwide and the I
Making axed. Oh,
runates, making axed. So this
tremendous.
is still a game. This is actually still a game. There will be, after this play, there will be 8 tiles in the bag. David Pearl going to play Amidal and Jolt for a big score of 66
Mm.
and narrow the gap to 42 points. And with a really, 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 really good draw, David Pearl could steal this one, but it's looking very close to over.
Yeah, he's going to need something pretty remarkable. This is going to get him pretty far up past, 300, closing that gap. 66 points on offer, as you said, but leaving VY on the rack is just rough. It's going to be difficult for him to draw into miraculous plays, miraculous bingos. He's going to have to hope for the best. Nice scoring pop there for Orry, too. Feels like he should be able to figure out a way to score nicely and outrun.
Yeah, it's interesting. Orry could have drawn 7 consonants. David needs vowels. I think that was the only way for David to win. But unfortunately, neither of those things happened. David has drawn too many consonants, and Orry has drawn a fantastic balance here. So from his perspective now, 42 points ahead, 4 tiles in the bag. First thing you think about is a play like Bah, B-A-H, to the left of Lagongs. That's a nice 31. Leaves 1 tile in the bag, goes up by 73. How can you lose after that? And that's the question Orry Swift is asking himself. How can I lose this game? What could my opponent do to win in this position? So it might take a long time, and he has the time to think about all of these really, really crazy case scenarios that might lead to David Pearl stealing this one.
Yeah, always the exercise that you are looking to perform, figure out the worst case scenario, and if that would cause me to lose, trying to avert that. So, yeah, the score of the game is enough where significantly high scoring bingo, for example, some kind of massive play through through LA or something like that. Maybe that does it. So you have to at least look for something like that. But Orry is too smart. Looks like he's already figured out if I can just score well with 3 tiles, there's almost nothing that could outrun me in the end game, even if there was a playable bingo somewhere. And frankly, Ba also gets in the way of those potential nightmare scenarios of 9-letter bingos through LA, leaving very little else available on the board.
Yeah, welcome to our commentator friend, Kenji Matsumoto, in the YouTube chat mentioning at least think about botchable from the B of Brock through the L of Lagongs. But as you say, that is the only open spot on this board. We call this an exhausted board. The board is in use everywhere. Every single quadrant of the board, the top left, top right, bottom right, are well within use. And so the open space for long words is extremely limited, despite how much open space there is. And the only spot to place 7 letters unobstructed is through the L of Lagongs. Anything else would have to be through 2 disconnected tiles on this board or making tons of overlaps. So you could think about from the R of Intarsia, could we see a play there? No, that is a blank I. So why blank I does not work. but maybe there's a 9-letter word through the A of Ruinate and the I of Amidol, the T of Ruinate, the D of Amidol. These are the things you're thinking about. Maybe there's something through the D of Overwide and the I of Ruinates. Well, there was something and you missed that, Orry. Sorry, but it could very well happen. You just want to look for those scenarios and try to eliminate them. And with the unseen letters, 11 unseen tiles for Orry Swift, EEILLRSTVWY. It's kind of easy to think about these things because there's only 3 vowels.
Yeah, that's true. That definitely narrows the range of possibilities quite a bit when you only have the E and the I to look through, limits the number of overlaps and prefixes and suffixes you have to consider. So Ori at one point had considered, he had beach lined up, which would have been just fine for him to play, but he's gone back to the idea of playing a 3-tile play instead, keeping the H on his rack, maybe reasoning that the H just has a little bit better flexibility for scoring than some of the other scorers on his rack. The C and B, not quite as flexible at this juncture of the game as the H. So maybe he's going to play cab alongside Lagongs. That or any number of other 3-tile plays should be enough to get the job done here.
Yeah, this is a nice little adjustment. A few points sacrifice, I think 4 points over BAH, but keeping the H to overlap the A of Anopsias. You draw an L, you get hotel. Stuff like that is going to be threatened. So this is a good decision by Orry to keep a really flexible tile in the H. And he's drawn EEL, so he knows that the best David Pearl can have here is just one I and a Y. So the game is just over. It's like there's no words there. You can't do that.
Very nice. Yep, it's true. And David may be on the cusp of realizing the same and throwing in the towel with a play like Waverly through the A of Ruinate. Yeah, this is probably the best that David can do. Doesn't feel like there's any realistic winning chance. Let's just get to the end of the game with our outplay on the next turn, which he is guaranteed to have, almost certainly holding SR in reserve. So nicely spotted there, but a huge win for Orry Swift as he continues to fight his way towards the top of the standings. I think he's been the top dog at least once or twice so far, but he puts himself in great position with one more round to go in today's session, Josh. It has been a journey to this point, almost every game close throughout.
Yeah, it's been great to be able to call these, especially with the likes of Will Anderson, for those unaware, our most prominent content creator. Please go subscribe to him on YouTube, Wanderer15. You just posted a video I haven't had the time to watch, but it seems like a very sad one. If people want to commiserate, feel free to watch Will's latest video about his path to becoming a Scrabble Grandmaster. But unfortunately for David Pearl, this game did not go his way. He was pretty confident that Orry Swift played a phony 5. We saw our first ever challenge this year on stream of BROCH. And Orry Swift immediately punished that and basically never looked back. And is going to win this game by around 50 points. He's found his highest score of the THEE to the right of the ANO of Anopsias. That looks pretty good. It blocks some of the outplays David Pearl has with his 3 consonants. It's probably the best play. But he's just going to look for something better. He wants to maximize his winning margin as best he can.
Yeah, that looks good. The challenge by David, definitely an inflection point, but don't forget how quickly he spotted his playable bingo on Coven. Yes, he chickened out of Congener and did play a bingo on his very next turn, so you could look at it as, oh, it didn't hurt him too much, but Congener would have scored significantly higher and set him off on an even higher scoring path, as we see Orry play the. So a couple unforced errors here for David. It's not that he missed the bingo. He sat there and stared at it for several minutes, before playing Coven, but those are the two missed opportunities here. Overall, though, I've been impressed by David's play. Just the unforced errors are something that at this level, vying for such a difficult championship, there's only so many mistakes like that you can make.
Absolutely. So David Pearl with 8.5 minutes. His time usage has been great. His play finding has been great. Just a little bit shaky on a couple of those words. And that's sometimes all it takes to make a difference between some of the top experts and the top experts. Are we going to see, Will, one of the weirdest and most unplayed four-letter words in the game? David Pearl's highest score here is 8. He's seen a 6-point word in rest through the E of runates. But rest has an anagram, tres or tre. If you're French, means a lot. It is 8 points through the E of coven. I've never seen that played, I don't think, but it is a valid word. We don't.
Yeah, not this time. That's okay. That would have been a tough one. 6 points instead, and maybe the players will have a lot to say about this one if we cut.
It takes an E and an S. E is the weird 6 that doesn't take anything. I drew the K for a Mautic, but it wasn't worth playing.
Yeah, I've chickened out on congener.
Oh no. That's weird because congene is like not a word.
I wrote it down like a half a dozen times.
Yeah,
that was a bad game.
Yeah. That would have stayed. 453, 398, correct.
Yeah, congene no good, that's why I looked up.
I know, yeah, it does look strange. Cab was just an abundance of caution. You could like bingo here. If I played beach, you'd still win.
That was a clunker. Poorly executed.
Alrighty. That was a clunker. That was a bad game. David Pearl lamenting congener and the lost challenge. That's how it goes sometimes. He's still doing great. He can recover from this. He only lost by 55. His spread is good. His win-loss ratio is good. Maybe we'll see him on a little bit later. But until then, that was round 20 of 21 for day 3 of the Scrabble Players Championship 2026. One full day ahead of us tomorrow as well after this last game. 7 more games, and then top 2 players based on wins and differential will face off in a best of 5 finals. So, one more game to go. Let's take a short break. See who we have for the next pairing. And we'll be right back, Will, with more Scrabble. Don't go anywhere.